Sick to the noise, yeah, the mess we make. Machine Pun Kelly get caught in the fake. Facts and logic with a twist of chest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. Humor pulls the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows that set the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity when they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Machine Pun Kelly with a set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
Hello, one and all, and welcome to another episode of The Pun Show, where there are occasional puns and occasional facts. So are you guys ready to... What? No audio? Is the audio not working for everyone? Hang on a second. Is anybody else not getting audio? I guess you wouldn't know. Hang on a second. I'm going to check on that, Joe, if you can hear me. Looks like it should be working. I don't know what's going on. It might be on your end, Joe, unless anybody else has anything. So I'm going to type that. Okay. All right. We got Joe up and running. You don't just get a podcast here, you get tech support. And with my magical powers of internet settings changes, I managed to fix Joe's audio. I don't know how I did it, but that's just one of those things. So, okay. Hi, Pocket Brain. I think this is the first time I've seen you here. So thanks for joining. I've been kind of, okay, first of all, for those who watched like a month ago and were wondering what happened to Nehan, my faithful and fearless co-host, she actually got a job and I'm really happy for her, but now she's too busy to help me out during the day. So she's just kind of, we still keep in touch. We're still friends. There's nothing, there's no story behind it. She just got a job and she's doing her job. So anyway, more power to her, but that's why she's not here. But since then, I've kind of like realized I need some sort of interruption other than me just talking for an hour, because I don't even like listening to me that much. And I know my wife doesn't. So I've been kind of figuring out a format thing. I think I'm starting to figure it out, but I always appreciate feedback. So if you like the sort of video than me talking kind of thing, then let me know. If you think it's stupid, let me know that too. I'm always open to constructive criticism. But anyway, let's get on to today's videos. I think I've got this figured out a little better so that it won't be as goofy as it has been in the past. So we're just going to start with
these other countries may have to suffer through our tariffs. We'll see if they lead to higher prices or not. I mean, President Trump imposed a bunch of tariffs in his first term, and they
don't think they're going to raise prices back here at home?
Well, I think it depends on how competitive it is. I mean, maybe American companies will get to lower prices. Your question is, are people at home, are they willing to
hang on a second. Let's listen to that again.
To lower prices. Your question is, are people...
They don't think they're going to raise prices back here at home?
Well, I think it depends on how competitive it is. I mean, maybe American companies will get to lower prices.
How are that, like, how does that even come across as a logical thought in your own head? How do you process that thought and not realize, no, that is too stupid of a thing to say. No, tariffs are not going to lower prices. All right. Let's just put that little baby to rest right now. Not for American companies, not for foreign countries, not for international countries, not for intergalactic countries. If Darth Vader wanted to trade with us and the Empire wanted to trade with us as much as Donald Trump has with them in common ideologically, there would still have to be prices going up.
Your question is, are people at home, are they willing to ride with the president on this? I think they are.
Based on what? Based on what are they willing to ride with this? Like, I remember when you guys were like all about when prices were going up under Biden, it was, catastrophic. It was the end of the world. Like literally America could not survive with him as president. But when Trump becomes president and through his own willful action, stupidly just raises prices by establishing a worldwide trade war, then all of a sudden Americans are willing to pay higher prices because of the end result, which we still don't know what is. It is so vaguely defined as this mysterious place where we all come out with jobs that are better jobs.
What about higher prices? Are your constituents willing to stomach that?
Well, I think anytime you're going to have a change in the status quo, there's going to be some disruption by definition.
That's not a change in the status quo. That's somebody deliberately fucking up the economy.
And but I think how this story ends is the most important thing, and hopefully.
And then how the story ends is the most important. They keep going to this kind of undefined where the story ends. Am I the only one that sees this? I feel like I'm the only one that talks about it. Like, no, there was actually somebody else that pointed this out. What is the end game? What does it like? Let's say it's successful. And in spite of all of my and all the liberals complaining, the tariffs work and they work perfectly and they do exactly what they were supposed to do. What is different? What is different than is now? And then once you've explained that to me, explain to me why we had to have an international trade war in order to get from point A to point B. Because I don't see those dots being connected. And what I do see is a lot of people acting like those dots are connected and acting like there is this fictional end game that nobody can describe. So that's what he's doing here.
It ends quickly.
So do you think your voters will be okay with paying more?
Well, again, if it's short term and it results in a better position.
See, again, if it's short term and it ends, okay, but what if it isn't? Because in all likelihood, it's not. There's nothing to indicate that this is going to be short term or that it's going to end well.
The U.S., I think they're willing to do it, but long term has an effect. So I'm hoping they're short term, and I'm hoping they're effective.
Oh, hope. That sounds like a great plan. Let's just hope. Hope, yes. Hope is like the answer. If we just hope, then it will all get better.
So that's the big question here, Richard. What does short term mean?
Yeah.
Will the voters actually do what these members are saying, that they'll be okay with paying more at the grocery store, paying more for any number of goods, whether it's buying a car or anything else? And that's going to be the one thing that could be change the calculus on Capitol Hill. If more voters raise concerns, if constituents are alarmed at how much they are paying and they raise their concerns directly with their members of Congress, will that lead to changes here in Washington? All questions at the moment.
So, yeah. I think I've made my point clear on this. So yeah. I like, if you're on Blue Sky or Twitter, or even if you want to mention something in here on the YouTube link, am I the only one that's like wondering about this? Why is nobody pressing them on what are the like? You say if it works, what does that mean? What does work mean? What does it mean that it worked, that the tariffs worked? They come back down. We have manufacturing of something. What are we manufacturing? Why do we need to have a 25% tax on wood from Canada in order to get to that point? Like, how are these things connected? Rather than just talk to me in vague abstractions, please actually do some reporting. And this is like why we are here. And people always want to talk about why we're here. We are here because the news did not report the news. They did not report about the tariffs before. They say the voters voted for this. No, the voters did not really vote for this. The voters voted for the idea of China paying for our taxes because they're really that dumb that when Donald Trump said that, they believed it and parroted it. And the media did not correct it sufficiently so that a lot of people were just like still believing that. That's why, I mean, this is not conjecture on my part. This was the reason that as soon as Trump got elected, tariffs was the number one Googled thing on the internet, because all of a sudden people were realizing, oh, wait, he's going to do some stupid shit. Why didn't they know he was going to do the stupid shit before they voted? And I'll tell you why. It's because the media didn't tell them it was stupid. You know, I like to say 4D chess when these chimps can't even play 2D chess. Donald Trump is playing for dementia chess. That man is so dumb and so demented and has like zero, like he's just a chaos of random thoughts. That's all he is at this point. Tariffs without industry investment leads to supply shortages. Right. I mean, all of these things I keep saying, like if you watch this program consistently, like Joe does, the thing I've been like really hammering on here is that tariffs are like a tool, and people will say, well, what's wrong with tariffs? Or, you know, and there's nothing wrong with tariffs, just like there's nothing wrong with fire, right? But you can use tariffs well and you can use them wrong, just like you can use fire well or use fire wrong. So if I fire up my stovetop, my gas stove, to heat up, you know, to make a grilled cheese sandwich, then that's responsible use of fire, right? I just turned on the burner and I'm using fire to make my grilled cheese sandwich. If I burn down my house to make a grilled cheese sandwich, then I'm being stupid, right? So it's not about whether tariffs are good or bad, just as it's not whether fire is good or bad. What matters is whether the way that we're using tariffs is good or bad, and we're using them extremely stupidly. All right, so let's go to the next video clip. I can't stand to look at his face anymore. All right, video file. Oh, okay.
This is Charles Schwab. It's not just a company, it's actually an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made 900 million. That's not bad. He's an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made 900.
So he made 2.5 million, and he made 2.5 billion, and he made 900 trillion yesterday on the stock market. And so they're asking, it's worth asking, what did they know about when Donald Trump was going to unpause or to pause his tariffs? Because there was obviously a big, huge bump after he made that announcement. So did these two guys that happened to be visiting him in the White House on that day, did he let them know that he was going to be unpausing the tariffs? Did they put in an order to buy? Is this worth investigating? Yes, because there's a lot of there is a lot of people that are legitimately and genuinely concerned that what all this tariff stuff is doing is just manipulating the stock market. And so where is the, you know, like, I hate to use the if Joe Biden card or if Barack Obama card on these types of things, because Joe Biden or Barack Obama would never, ever, ever do these things. But in the sake of like trying to look at things in a prism, what if they did? If Joe Biden had manipulated the stock market and told his buddies what he was going to do before he did it so that they could make $2 trillion or $900 billion, how would the media react? What would Fox News's reaction be? I think that's a fair question, don't you? I mean, why is it that this is something that's celebrated and not something that's investigated? Because I'd really like to know. That's a real, honest, and I think valid question. Why is it celebrated and not investigated? Anyway, that's just for you. Well, I'm going to just take a quick pause here and ask you if you are watching this on X. There is a link to the YouTube channel, the YouTube stream on my timeline there. And you don't have to. Like, if you don't want to, don't worry. We're good on X. But if you, it would be better for me if you do it on YouTube. And here's the reason why. In order to get monetized on YouTube to where you get part of the AdSense revenue, then you need to get 4,000 hours. I'm at like 30,700. And so that means like people watching. So if you're watching on YouTube, then it counts towards my hours. And, you know, that's good for me. So if you could do that, if you could just click on that link and watch there, and it makes no difference to you where you're watching from, then that's cool. But if like you're driving, I don't want you to go through any trouble or anything. So anyway, just asking you to do me a favor so that I can get over that 4,000 hour mark and start making some money from YouTube, which I'm almost there. I'm actually really happy about that. I don't know. I like, for those of you who don't know, I used to have like a really good job, and then I got laid off, and then I got another job, and then I got COVID, and then I got long COVID. So I haven't been able to work basically for like a year, and I've been living off my savings, and I'm just hoping that I can get monetized on YouTube before my savings run out. So anyway, if you want to watch on there, it will help me to like have an income. And also, if you're interested, there's if you just want to help support the program, I am sort of like what I call fake monetized. Like after you get to 3,000 hours, you get fake monetized, which means that people can like buy memberships to your channel or whatever. I haven't had anybody, you know, buy a membership yet, but I haven't really mentioned anything about it yet. But if you want to, there's an option there to buy a membership. If you just want to help support the program a little bit for like $8 a month or whatever, then go ahead. Or you could just subscribe to my Substack as a paid subscriber. Anyway, just throwing that out there. Mostly, if you just want to watch the videos from YouTube, then that works better for me. So, all right, let's go to what Joe said here. If Biden did this, we would have months of Hunter Biden style hearings. I can't even imagine. Can you imagine, like, if Hunter Biden had made $2 trillion right before Joe Biden made an announcement about, you know, pausing tariffs that caused the stock market to go up? Can you imagine just the absolute shittest of shows going on after that? It would be insane. But with Donald Trump, we expect corruption, so we get corruption. And since we get corruption from Donald Trump, it's just Donald Trump being Donald Trump. So it doesn't matter if he's corrupt. Okay, so let's go to the next video. So anyway, once again, if, you know, I'm open to feedback. What do you guys think of this?
Increase in the history of the stock market, that's pretty good. That's pretty, you're almost, you know, if you keep going, you're going to be back to where it was 4 weeks ago. But it was a sick market 4 weeks ago, you know, because the trade was sick. It was only a question of time. I don't blame the tariffs. I think the tariffs just sort of magnified what was happening.
Okay, so this is Donald Trump talking about yesterday's bump, which, by the way, most of it has gone back down now. So it didn't keep going. But it's kind of funny that he would take credit for the stocks going up. It's like the stock market was at like 45,000. Not, you know, what was So the highest it went, I'll look it up for you, was I want to say it was 45,000 something. It's $45,073.63 is its all-time high. All right. So since then it's come down to 38,799. So that's at least 7,000 out of 35 or 45. So it's down 15% from its all-time high under Trump, which, I think that's a lot of money. I'm not positive, but I think 15% of the Dow Jones is actually a lot of money. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think that is a lot of money. I don't think that yesterday's little bump. So yesterday it went all the way up. Went up about went up to about 38,000. I don't know. And now it's back down to 38,800. It started at, it was almost up to, I think it went back up over 40,000 for a brief time yesterday. So it was only down 5,000. But Donald Trump wanted to take credit for it getting back up over 40,000 after it had been at 45,000, dropped all the way down to 37,000, and then went back up to 40,000. Now it's back down to 38,000. Whoa, we don't need another hero. Yeah, I don't think that is what we're looking for, Donald. I don't think that halfway back after you manipulated it by saying, oh, we're going to pause the stocks. So why did it go back down today is a good question that some people might ask. And it turns out that his pausing of the tariffs was only sort of pause. And so he paused, I think it's like a 10% tariff on the rest of the world and 100% tariff on China or something along those lines. If I'm off, go ahead, hit me in the comments, let me know. But so 125, Joe says 125% tariff against China is catastrophic, regardless of the rest of the tariffs being paused. Right. I mean, even just that is huge. And this is here's the thing about the whole tariff thing, is it something that did not need to happen, and is all based on his weirdo win-lose transactional proposition of trade deficits. And his view is if we have a trade deficit, we are losing money to another country. But that is nonsense. And it's like trying to explain to somebody. Somebody says, well, how is it nonsense? And it's like if somebody were to say that a circle is made up of, it's really just a square without right angles or something weird like that. How would you even go about explaining that? There's something, it's just so far beyond the realm of stupid that it takes your brain time to process the level of stupidity to get back to where you can explain why it's stupid. Maybe, I don't know, what do you call that? A stupidity overload? A Trump argument? I don't know. I mean, but that's the way it is. Trump really just has no idea what a tariff is or how they work or anything. So So now we have a 10% tariff on the entire world, which means, and I hate to explain this every single day, but just really quickly, 10% tariff does not just mean a 10% tariff on finished products. It means a 10% tariff on everything. So there are things that we do not make or grow here because we just can't. Like coffee or cocoa beans. Yes, we may make a little tiny bit of it in Hawaii or whatever, but we can never grow enough coffee beans to keep America drinking coffee. America drinks a lot of fucking coffee. We don't grow a lot of fucking coffee. And coffee is it's not worth it to invest a bunch of money into figuring out how we can grow more coffee in the United States. Because coffee beans are cheaper on the national market and international market than if we, try to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with buying something from another country or from a company that exists in another country. Like, that is, it is just so weird that he has an issue with that. Like, we do not trade with other countries for the most part. You have Bob's Import-Export Company that's buying, from Ahmad's Import-Export Company. He's buying coffee beans in, whatever country, or, Jose's Import-Export Company in Brazil. Like, he's buying coffee beans in these other countries from other private import-export companies. They are not like examples of China owning the United States. I mean, like, there's a level of stupid that's involved that it takes a while to like carve away that level of stupid. Like, what makes you think that tariffs are on other countries or involve other countries other than that they involve companies that exist in other countries? And do you really think that the United States is the entire world? Or do you really think that the entire world needs to put America first? Why can't Ecuador put Ecuador first? Why can't Canada put Canada first? Shouldn't Canadians care more about Canada than they do about America? If Americans should care more about America than they do about Canada? Like, how about we just all care about humanity first? Is that a possibility? Can we just say, you know what? You're a human being, and therefore your existence matters on this earth. It does not matter less than on mine because I am an American and you are from south of the U.S.-American border. And, this is something that a lot of people brought up. You have a trade deficit with your grocery store. You buy food from them, but they don't buy anything from you. And, I mean, in some ways, I want to look at that and say it's a false equivalence because I see this a lot. I have a trade deficit with Starbucks. But the more I think about it, the more I can't find what is false about the equivalence. Like, I cannot find why this argument is invalid. Yes, you're talking about a private person and a private industry, right? Like, your grocery store is privately owned, but so are import-export companies. And so that's where, like, it actually becomes an honest argument, right? Bob's Import-Export Company, instead of saying, me and HEB, it's Bob's Import-Export Company and Jose's Import-Export Company. Okay, so Bob might have a trade deficit with Jose because he's only buying stuff from Jose. He's only buying the Brazilian coffee beans from Jose. But when Bob sells those coffee beans, he sells them for more money. And the people that, sell those coffee beans to coffee shops also make more money by selling coffee. Does it matter if Jose makes a profit and Bob makes a profit? Is that somehow bad for America? Does Jose have to lose money in order for America to benefit? Because that's what you're talking about. And we're talking about private enterprise, and we're talking about capitalism, and we're talking about free trade, and we're talking about things which Republicans used to fucking care about. Right? But now it's like, unless America is first, whatever the hell that means, if somebody else is not losing, America is not winning. That's their attitude about everything. There is no win-win proposition in the MAGA mind. There is only win-lose proposition. And if we win, you are losing. And if you win, we are losing. That's their thought. And it's a really weird and corrupt and evil thought. All right, so let's go to the next video. So is this working better? Oh, okay. I think this is...
The New York Times is reporting tonight that even some of the critical programs that the Trump administration said they didn't mean to cut apparently are still cut. Quote, last week, some officials were given lists of contracts and awards that remained active. But by the weekend, many of those projects had been axed. Then on Tuesday, yesterday, some of the programs were restored with little explanation. But now, still, the administration has, quote, slashed many of the programs it had pledged to preserve. They cannot explain what they're doing. They cannot defend what they're doing. They cannot commit to what they're doing. But they also can't even reverse what they're doing when they try to reverse it, because they are so incompetent they can't even fail properly.
I mean, how bad do you have to be to not be able to fail? And let me say this first. I'm still mad at Rachel Maddow for being gay, because that means she will never leave her wife for me, you know. But other than that, I don't have any problems with her. She is amazing. I just, you know, if you're not crushing on Rachel Maddow, there's something wrong with your soul. That's me. Anyway, she's right? Like they can't even, like, so this is kind of a change of direction from the whole tariff conversation we've been having. But she's absolutely right that the Trump administration can't even fail properly with the whole Doge thing. They'll say, oh, we are canceling all these contracts, and then they'll be like, oh wait, we didn't mean to cancel these contracts, or we didn't mean to fire these people, let's bring them back. And then they bring them back, and then they're like, oh, we can't bring them back because anyway. Then you have the press secretary talking about how carefully they think everything out, when it's pretty clearly obvious they don't think anything out. My problem with Doge is, well, like, there's a lot of problems I have with Doge, but my biggest problem with Doge is that they ask first. I'm not saying ask first. I'm not putting on my Ebonics accent and culturally appropriating here. No, they ask first and ask questions later. They will cut you before they even figure out whether or not they should. This has characterized everything they've done, is that they will just, like, on the fly, these ignorant dumb fucks, which that's what they are. They are ignorant and they are dumb fucks. So they are ignorant dumb fucks that are sitting there, and they're just slashing things that are congressionally approved spending. Entirely of their own accord, entirely out of their own ignorance. And they're just, oh, well, we can slash this. And then they find out, oh, you know what? Those were people that were tracking, that were making sure that our nuclear weapons were safe. Maybe we shouldn't have fired them. And so then they have to go back. That is a failure of incompetence. And What I wish the media would start doing more of is what Rachel is doing here and calling them out on their incompetence. Because it's like when you sit there and you talk about, oh, we've saved $1.5 trillion in Medicare. No, you haven't. You have misidentified $1.5 trillion in things that were legitimate spending that you through your incompetence have said are not legitimate. That is not actually saving anybody any money. The only way it's saving anybody any money is if you're causing other people undue hardship, because you're taking away money from them that they needed. And Medicare, by the way, is not a what is the word they love to use? Can't think of it. Anyway, Medicare is what you pay for with your taxes. You get that from your taxes. If you've ever paid taxes, you deserve Medicare. I'm so tired of people acting like if you're on Medicare or if you have disability, that somehow you're lazy or wrong-minded or wrong-spirited. You know what? I mean, some people are disabled. My wife is disabled. And it really offends me when people suggest that she's not, just because, like she was able to do something today. Being disabled does not mean that you're able to fully function every single day. In fact, if you're a disabled person, being able to fully function for a single day can actually be really bad for you, because then people will say, oh, look, they function for that day. Why can't they do that every day? And it's like what people don't see. Like when my wife's mom died and she took care of her funeral, and she kind of really rose up and did everything she could for that funeral. What they didn't see, what they saw was my wife handling the funeral. What they did not see is the 2 weeks afterward where my wife recovered from handling the funeral. And so when you talk about disability, you are talking about not people who don't want to do something like work. It is about people who can't do something like work. And yes, there are just people, sorry to say it, for whatever reason, are not able. And, I know empathy is a bad word in this day and age of Elon Musk, but we need it. Empathy is humanity. Empathy is how I cannot understand how people that call themselves Christians can not understand the concept of empathy. Anyway, when we talk about Medicaid and cutting Medicaid, and we're talking about cutting medical aid from people that really, really need it. And you're not getting Medicaid because you're lazy or whatever. I mean, to get on Medicaid, most people need to be put on Social Security or on disability. To get disability requires you go a year without working, and it's really, really not easy. You have to send in all your medical evidence. It has to be approved, and it's I think 15% or something like that of people end up applying get approved. And I don't think it's just that percentage that is actually disabled. I mean, it's really just a trauma for the people that are disabled. Anyway, I just wish we could stop hating people that are the most marginalized, the disabled, the trans people, the gay people. Why is it that? Anyway, I guess because Donald Trump is president. Anyway, all right. So let's go to the next.
FaceTime conversation. I don't like it at all. Please use your headphones.
By the way, Scott Jennings.
All right.
I don't know if you know this. Scott Jennings is this guy right here, the one in the suit there, rubbing his hands together like Mr. Smithers.
We got to get to Scott.
More than 15 seconds at the coffee creamer bar at the coffee shop. Straight.
Okay, so he's talking about this is if people that I should go to El Salvador prisons.
Get it all. Please use your headphones. On planes, on trains, annoying. We got to get to Scott.
More than 15 seconds at the coffee creamer bar at the coffee shop. Straight to El Salvador. 2 or more walking side by side on a sidewalk. You're gone. El Salvador. Recline your seat on an airplane. El Salvador. Disney adults. You're going too. And finally, pronouns in your email signature. Out of here. Those are my EOs.
All right.
Out of here.
So what is the point of this? Like if you're a trans person, you should be deported to El Salvador. If you take your kids to Disneyland, you should be deported to El Salvador. And it's not so much that I really think that he believes those things, but I think that he's diminishing that people that are being deported to El Salvador prisons illegally, like that he's diminishing and demeaning. Like, okay, Scott, what if we sent you to El Salvador? How would you feel about that? Like, anyway, I just felt so offended by that clip. Like, what is wrong with you that you think this is the kind of thing to joke about? Oh, look at that. This poor innocent man that, like, literally. All right, let's talk about the one guy, Garcia. The court in 2019, an immigration court, said, if you return him, we have, he has valid concerns that he will be persecuted and killed. In 2019, when Trump was president, then Trump becomes president again in 2025. They deport him illegally against the immigration court's advice or decision. And then, oops. And then you have people sitting there saying, well, in 2019, he was heard by him. And so, like, the immigration, like, they make it sound like I had a guy that was sitting there arguing that the immigration court had determined that he was a member of M13 when it decided that he was being persecuted by M13. Like, what is wrong with these people? Where is the compassion? Where is the decency? Like, you have perfectly innocent, normal, kind, generous, loving people. This guy was a dad. He was a father. He still is. As far as I know, he's still alive. But where is the decency? Like, why is it that this dad is suddenly such a horrible person, other than Donald Trump told you he was? Where are you as a human being at this point? Do you not care that people could die because they're not a member of he literally fled the country because he was being persecuted by gangs. And he proved that to a United States immigration judge. So why are you more worried about whether or not the Trump administration is allowed to send him to prison than whether or not he's being sent to prison in another country without any due process, without any conviction? And you have these people that are sitting there acting like the Supreme Court decided that it's okay because of their decision, which was that he filed in the wrong system, which I disagree with completely. Like, I think the Supreme Court was completely fucked up in doing that. And so did 4 of the 9 justices. But even the 5 in the majority did not say what you're saying. What they said is he filed through the wrong system. He should have filed in Texas rather than DC. So they're like talking about a technicality, not about whether or not he, like due process should apply to him. And they even said due process should apply to him. Like, you cannot deport people without due process. If they can't deport him without due process, they can't deport you without due process. And if they can deport him without due process, they can deport you without due process. Because all they have to do is say the exact same thing about you as they do about him. And if they say that, they can shave your head and they can strip you down to your underwear and they can send you to an El Salvador prison and they can send the hoe in chief, whatever her name is, to sit there and pose in a picture in front of you that's in violation of the Geneva Conventions and act like they are some kind of big fucking hero. Yeah, Trend de Arugua. That's the gang they're claiming he's a part of. Which there is absolutely no evidence they presented, and whether or not there's evidence is immaterial almost. It's like, because if they present evidence, the real question is whom did they present evidence to, and did a judge agree there was evidence? Because right now we don't have anything that says that. All we have is the executive branch's word that this is true, which is tantamount to, if they say it is true about you, then they can deport you. I don't care if you have a U.S. citizenship. I don't care if you have a birth certificate. I don't care if you were born here, or if your parents were born here, or if their parents were born here. Because if they say it's not true, and there's no court to make a decision about it, then how are we to know it's not true? You would be the first person arguing that, whatever person was lying about it because the government said it. Well, what if the government said it about you? How many tigers have to eat how many faces before you legitimately start to worry about your own fucking face? Exactly, Joe. Trust me, bro. That's who they care about. All right, let's go to the next clip.
Away. Reviewing access and dissemination of information, perfectly fine, because we do know some oversteps occurred. Looking at whether the government was involved in censorship, which
he's talking about 2000, and the government was not involved in censorship. He's saying we know that, but you'll notice that he does not actually say how we know that.
We know they were perfectly fine, but I think
no, we don't know that they were. We know that they weren't. There is zero evidence at all that the government was involved in censorship in 2000. And if they were, it was Donald Trump's government. Who was president in 2020?
Talking about censorship of his lie. He's
well, there were
alleging.
other issues,
Hold on,
issues
Scott.
related to COVID.
He is alleging.
So what he's talking about is that some social media accounts deleted his posts that spread a provably false lie, which social media accounts are private industry. They're not the government, so it is not censorship. And B, so fucking what? He was lying.
He is alleging that CISA censored his lie that the election was stolen. It is not true that the election was stolen. Chris Krebs told the truth, and now he's being targeted.
You'll notice that Scott never says the election was not stolen.
By the government with an executive order.
Right.
I guess it shouldn't be, I don't think it should be hard to just say, this is not what the government should be doing. This is not what the president should be doing. Because if the shoe, to Michael's point, were on the other foot.
And the reason this is all being brought up is that Donald Trump is trying to investigate people that investigated him for these sorts of things, that, like he was breaking the law. And so now he is weaponizing the Justice Department in the name of not justifying, or not weaponizing the Justice Department.
As you claimed that it was, you thought that was a huge scandal.
Again.
So, anyway, what is weaponizing the Justice Department at this point? Because it seems to be like, as long as you only weaponize it against Democrats, it's okay. But if you investigate Republicans for legitimate abuses and legitimate crimes, then you're weaponizing it, especially if it's Donald Trump. You'll notice that, like, none of the crimes that Donald Trump has been accused of was he proven, like, innocent of. And you're talking about different justice systems that were involved and everything like that. But all the talk about weaponizing the Justice Department is a bunch of bullshit, because they still went through grand juries, they still went through attorneys, he still had a right to a defense. Like, where is the violation? Where is the weaponization here? Like, all of it is true. What this is a witch hunt. They're just trying to look for, like, I don't even know what they're trying to do here. They're trying to say, oh, well, somebody, investigated Trump, therefore they're guilty of something. Okay. Okay, now we're going to move into another subject.
The idea that the President of the United States would threaten and harass attorneys and law firms that defended people he did not like is a major step forward toward authoritarianism. And by the way, some of these big law firms, was it Paul Weiss is one of them? One of the biggest, caved in. We look to these law firms who have hundreds of well-paid lawyers to defend the Constitution, to defend the rule of law. And these guys, big law firms, who often, by the way, defended Democrats, they were more interested in getting millions of dollars from their lobbying or whatever the hell they do in Washington, D.C., making huge amounts of money, than standing tall and defending the Constitution. They should be ashamed of themselves.
So you've got, what he's talking about here is this situation here where you've got, hang on a second. You've got a situation where Donald Trump keeps suing law firms that, or keeps trying to sign executive orders that block law firms that were associated with things that attacked him in the past, right? So, like, if I think one example is a law firm that hired Mueller because of the Mueller investigation, he's like saying that law firm can no longer represent anybody in the federal government, and if they're not allowed in the federal buildings anymore, which I don't even know how you go about that, but they're not allowed in the federal buildings anymore, which cripples their ability to defend their clients, which means that it cripples their business, because they hired George Mueller, which, by the way, so did the Trump administration. But, let's set that aside for a minute. Yes, like, the Trump administration is the one that hired George Mueller. But this other company that, after Mueller finished his investigation, they're clearly involved in the Russia hoax or whatever. I don't even know where to go from that. Like, the nonsense. So Barry Sanders is making a point here about the law firms And some of them are capitulating and some of them are fighting. All of them should be fighting. And you might not realize how significant it is, because we all have a right to a defense against the government. And what Trump is doing by suing anybody that defends anybody who is against him is essentially telling, it's a scare tactic. If you're a law firm that is planning on representing somebody that defends against what I am doing, then I will end your business. And that is, obviously it's wrong. It's anti-democratic, and it is actually anti-rights, because it's going after the rights of the the attorney's office of being able to represent their clients, but it's also against the client's rights to be represented by someone. So it's like, okay, so whoever represents you, if they're going to be prosecuted or persecuted because of their defense of you, then that's going to take away their incentive to represent you, which means that you are less likely to be represented. And so you end up in a thing where you are at a disadvantage if you're against Trump, because you're against Trump. And especially if Trump is the one that keeps violating the law, but you can't get lawyers to represent you in it. You see the outcome, right? Like, you just end up with, well, it doesn't matter that Trump is wrong. You can't legally prove he's wrong because you can't get lawyers to talk about it, because lawyers won't pay, because he will destroy their business if they do. You follow along, right? Like, this is not good for democracy. This is not good at all. So anyway, let's go to the next file.
About the deals, what we want to see deals. We want to see win after win after win. We want to see countries coming into the White House signing deals. When will that happen? And which countries?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to name the countries yet. In fact, we have a meeting today with all the top principals where we're going to present to the president a list of what we think his priorities might look like, and then I'm sure he's going to have his own ideas about where to move things. But I can tell you that we've already got offers on the table for more than 15 countries. 15 countries. Great. Now, that doesn't mean there's a deal, but it means that you've heard the much larger number for people who call and they want to talk. But there are specific offers on the table, I've been informed from USTR, of about 15 countries right now. And so this is moving fast. The thing that I joked about when we said the 90-day pause is that we're going to go around the world in 80 days and have 10 days of rest. That's our plan.
You'll notice the lack of specifics here. Oh, we've got 15 countries that have plans, Okay, what are they? And what are the plans? And what are the offers? And what aren't the countries that don't have offers? Like, are we talking about, some third world country like that it's not going to make any difference in the grand scheme of things? Or are we talking about the European Union? Because I know the European Union offered a 0%. They offered a 0% rate, and they got shot down, right? Like 0 for 0. Like, how much more even can that be? We won't have any tariffs. You don't have any tariffs. So what all I can imagine is that Trump wants us to be able to tariff the EU, but not the EU to be able to tariff us. And that's his idea of even. Well, I don't think that the EU is going to find that very even. And if he's not worried about, how is that not even? A 0 for 0. I think they said 0 for 0 or 25 for 25. So if you want the tariffs, fine, they go both ways. But exactly the same. They want exactly the same both ways. And Donald Trump is like, that's not good enough. Okay. So how does that work? How is that even? If you're like saying what's literally even is not even and it doesn't work, then how does that work? When you talk about, oh, we have 15 nations, 15 out of 200, and how many of these 15 have a population of more than like 100,000 people in their country? Like, what countries are you talking about? What deals are they offering? You haven't said that you accepted any of these deals. So you haven't accepted a single deal. You haven't accepted a single deal. But we've got the art of the deal master here that's supposedly just churning out these deals that we're going to have, like in 80 days, we're going to have deals with every country in the world. Well, are we? Why should I believe you when you can't even name one deal that's even being proposed? Yesterday, Trump said 75 countries. Today, they say 15. It's all lies. Right. Like, where, like, you can't believe anything. It's just a bunch of horse shit until there's actually deals on the table. And then it's like, okay, what could we have done without starting a tariff war? You know, like if we end up getting like a better trade deal with Morocco, what was it necessary to go through a trade war to do that? Anyway. All right, so let's go.
Out a post on True Social at, what was it, 9:18 a.m., or 9:37 a.m., I should say, where he said, this is a great time to buy. And then, of course, after 1 p.m., he announced the pause or the blinking on some of the tariffs there. Do you have any questions about the timing there? Was he telling people, was he tipping people off? Was it market manipulation?
No, actually, we had lunch with a major stockbroker, from New York, and we were talking to him about this tariffs and all that. And then one of the things he said was, "It's time to buy." And he had no idea what was going to happen later. I mean, look, you buy when the market is low, and the market.
The problem with this whole discussion is that he's sitting there equating this bond broker, who we don't know, with Donald Trump. Well, the bond broker doesn't know what Donald Trump is going to do. Donald Trump does know what Donald Trump is going to do. So they're like, like when you talk about false equivalence, what difference does it, like if this bond broker, even if everything is 100% accurate, he doesn't know what Trump's going to do. Why does that make him, like the person to answer on this? Donald Trump knew what Donald Trump was going to do. So he's manipulating markets. Like, how is that even a discussion? How is that a controversy? All right. So now the last one.
The Democrats are out right now trying to make hay out of the fact that we're going to gut Medicaid and all these other things. It's simply not true. We're going to protect essential programs for everybody who's eligible.
We're going to make hay out of them trying to gut Medicare because they're trying to cut Medicare. Like, they are actually trying to cut Medicare. Like, it's not making hay if it's actually fucking hay.
To receive those. And you'll see that reflected in the final bill. But I think it's very important for us to note that we'll be looking for $1.5 trillion in savings. And
okay, there is not $1.5 trillion in savings in Medicaid and Social Security. Like, this idea that they have generated and that is totally fake is that there is all this waste and whatnot in Social Security and Medicaid. But there's not. If anything, it's too far in the other direction. It's too hard to get disability. It's too hard to get this Medicaid. There is not enough money there. And if you are a person who needs it, then you know that it is not that easy. It is a ridiculous lie of the right that that Social Security and Medicaid are being abused by American citizens. No, American citizens are being abused by people like Mike Johnson and Donald Trump. As Joe says, for those eligible is code for we're going to make new rules to exclude more people, which is exactly what it is. And it is not like for those who need it. Like eligible is, like if we change who is eligible, it doesn't change those who need it. Like you can need it and not be eligible, but how many people are eligible and don't need it versus how many people who need it and aren't eligible? I'll bet that the difference in the latter is far greater. Like I think there are far more people that need Medicare and aren't eligible than there are people who are eligible and don't need it. I think that the people who are eligible and don't need it is very, very few and far between. But the people who are eligible and don't need it, I think there's a pretty big number of those. All right. So that's it for today's clips and today's show. Once again, I thank you for joining me. And, come back tomorrow. I'll have some new diatribes and ramblings to go on about. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.